Hey guys, Moose here. We are back with some more Stonehearth in our Rayya's Children playthrough, and I've been having some issues and talking about them with the game kind of chugging a bit, but I think I've kind of figured out what the issue was. If I just let it go, I don't tell them to do anything right now. You can see they're harvesting. The farmers have been kind of my metric for this, which maybe doesn't make too much sense, but they seem, it's very clear when they stop working, because as you can see, we've got a bunch of stuff rotting. That's a clear sign that they're not working. They are now, but I'll get to that in a minute. So I was looking at this right here, if I get it to pop up, and trying to figure out, okay, well what's going on? And the issue seems to occur when Lua, this first light blue one here, gets up around like 80 or 90%. You can see now it's kind of fluctuating a lot, which I think is what should be happening. It's down as low as 17% I saw there real quick, all the way up to like 80 something. And what I noticed was, we've been doing this project over here, and the main thing I noticed is that the time that it got really bad was when I was designating this whole thing. And when I did smaller chunks, and I tested this out a bit, it seemed to work much better. And that actually has big implications for our Ascendancy playthrough as well. So I'm going to try to go bit by bit and not get too much. And this took me like a full episode's worth of content to figure out, so I apologize. There's going to be a little bit of stuff where in my head I'm making a logical leap because I made that leap in the recording that I did where I figured this out, but I needed to the way that it's hard to explain, but basically I needed to start over. So I apologize if there's any weirdness in the way that I frame this conversation, if you want to call it that. But yeah, that's why. But basically I got into thinking about early access and saying, you know, okay, this is, you know, obviously this is an issue with the game. I don't think there's any getting around that. It's, you know, the game shouldn't just blow up when you designate too much stuff to mine. That's a little bit unreasonable, I feel. So, where does that lie? Like, what's the issue with that? If there is an issue with that, who should be blamed for that? And all the different things that go into it. And I want to be clear, this is going to come off as really critical of Stonehearth and early access in general, but I am being critical of early access, but I'm not specifically being critical of Stonehearth. Because I don't think this is Stonehearth's problem. And I think Stonehearth in general is mostly fine. I'm clearly, if you've watched the last week or so of videos, I'm a little bit frustrated by it, but I think that's because of my unique situation as a YouTuber where I sort of feel not obligated to play it, but I mean, it's a business decision. If most of my views are coming from here, what am I going to do? Just stop playing? You know, I don't really have that choice, as, you know, unromantic as that sounds. So there's an, you know, let's say there's an issue with the game. Say it's a problem with the game. We can argue all day about when it needs to be fixed by the developer, how timely that fix needs to come or anything like that. And I feel like this general issues like this have been in the game for long enough that it's significant. But this is early access, and it was purchased by, I purchased it understanding that it was early access. That doesn't necessarily mean it's okay. I think you can make an argument that early access as a concept is a problem because of issues like this, where, you know, the game isn't necessarily in a playable state, but people are paying for it, and that's kind of preying on hype and a desire to have it now, you know. As a kid, if you grew up and you saw, hey, there's this ad for the new Zelda game or whatever in Nintendo Power coming out in 6 months, or you see a trailer at E3, do you care if it's unfinished? If someone says, I'll pay, if you give me $60, I'll give you a copy, but it's unfinished. You care? No, you're going to buy it. And you're not going to get a finished product. And it's going to suck, but can you really... Do you think that the majority of people would be able to rationally say, you know what, I'm going to wait? I don't think so. I don't think you can. So, at that point, do we say that perhaps early access is a little bit exploitative? And I think, yeah, it probably is. And, you know, It's easy to make an argument against that, but I also think it's wrong. Now, where do I fit into that? I'm a YouTuber. I'm playing this early access game. I'm promoting it effectively. Don't I now have some responsibility for that? Aren't I part of the problem because I'm playing this game and promoting it? Because it's early access and it's not completely working, and therefore not really the enjoyment that you'd expect to get out of the title. It's not a finished product. Absolutely, I think YouTubers are part of the problem. But I don't think it's necessarily any individual YouTuber's fault. And at the end of the day, it's equally bad to whatever you want to attribute to the developers. Because the issue is more or less that it's a business. That's what it boils down to. And as a YouTuber, if I say, okay, what am I going to play? What market am I going to compete in? And I'm small. And I'm thinking, all right, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make money off of YouTube? And I'm looking at the market and I'm saying, okay, well, what is there that I could play? I could say, all right, well, hey, Overwatch is real popular. That came out after I started playing on YouTube. And I played a bit of it. Do you think there's any way in hell that I can compete in that market? Hell no. It's way too big. I'm no one. Even with Stonehearth, I'm no one. But that's where my views come from. So from business decision, it would be... I don't think it'd be fully suicide because there's really not really that much cost of doing a video. There is a cost, there is a real cost, but it's not money out of my pocket. It's leisure time out of my pocket, which is, you know, that has value. But if I'm not using it to make money anyway, then I'm not really losing money. So it's not really, it is a cost, but it's not like a straight up financial cost, if that makes sense. So I could say, well, screw it, it'll take longer, but I'm just gonna play finished games. Because that's, you know, that's the right thing to do. But if you're looking at it as a business, you can't really do that. And this is the same reason that early access exists from a developer's perspective. It's a bad business decision to not play early access games on a YouTube channel, unless you're already so big that it doesn't matter. If you're already so big that it doesn't matter, fuck it, do whatever you want. It makes no difference at that point. If you're a Total Biscuit or something, by all means, you can afford to make that choice. But if you're a small YouTuber and you're fighting for content, trying to get in there and get your views, not only do you need to be in there early, but you need to be in there on something that doesn't have that much other coverage. And the only things that aren't going to have other coverage in this day and age, with the internet being as big and widespread as it is, and anyone being able to record pretty much, the only time you're going to get in, unless you're exceptional in some way, like you're a really good player, and that's where you might see Overwatch come into it. If you're just an average guy doing this, even if you're entertaining, you're not going to get those views initially because no one knows you're entertaining. My perspective is that you can't get anyone just based on who you are until you've established yourself a bit. Then you can start to kind of have momentum and it's not so bad. But initially you're not going to have that. So it's really down to the game. And there's no way you're going to compete on anything that has a large installed base, or large, it's not the right word, a large presence on YouTube already. So at that point, you're talking about pretty much exclusively indie games and pretty much exclusively early access. So if that's where you have to go to get those initial views and like grow as a small channel, there's no way you're gonna say, well, I'll take the high road and not do it. It's a stupid decision. You could argue that it's the right decision, but it's a stupid decision. And at the end of the day, you're not going to do it. No one's going to do that. It's just not going to happen. And you'll get the odd person who does, and, you know, commend them for it. But the world is not such a nice place that we can always do that. So really, I think the only way anything happens is if the people at the top say, hey, I'm not going to do this. And then, well, the other thing is, if I don't play this because I'm like, well, it's bad practice, early access with an unreleased game, but you're charging me anyway, that's a bad practice. No one fucking cares what I think. It's not like they're gonna stop anyone, but if Total Biscuit or someone like that, someone that big, comes out and says, I have refused to play early access games because it's moderately exploitative, and while sometimes fine, like in the case of something like some good ones that come to mind, Darkest Dungeon, Life is Feudal, Forest Village seems great so far. This is stupid. I can't believe this is happening. I'm so tired of this. It's the stupidest mechanic I've seen in this game. That's not a bug, that's just a bad design. If someone like that goes up, comes to bat for this issue and says, I'm not going to do that, then it's a different, that can actually start having like a meaningful financial impact on bottom lines and things. But until that happens, it's meaningless. Like, there's nothing I can do that's going to impact anyone. It's just, I don't have that power. And that's fine, I shouldn't have that power yet, but it's reality, I don't. So whatever I do, it matters, it definitely matters, because if I get 30 people watching a video and those 30 people, 5 of them say, hey, Stonehearth looks good, I'm going to buy it, and then they buy it and they're pissed off that the game isn't working properly. And again, this isn't about Stonehearth, really. The game mostly works fine, I don't really have a problem with it. The only irritating thing about this is that I had to figure out what the issue was. If I knew what the issue was, I don't mind it that much, which is why I'm kind of calmer now than I was in the video that I recorded earlier. So I don't think this is really an issue with Stonehearth necessarily, but hypothetically if it was, and 5 people get convinced to buy it because of me, and they spend their money and they feel like they've been cheated, I'm not advertising for the company, but on some level I am, even though I'm really not. So is that now, to some degree, not false advertising, but it's kind of the issue that we had. I've talked about this a bit, like Dead by Daylight. Broken, terrible game. And if you buy it without people to play with, you're going to be pissed or disappointed. But if a streamer plays it, it looks amazing. Looks like loads of fun. Where does that fall? Does the streamer or YouTuber have a responsibility to say, hey, don't buy this game, it's shit? Or is it much more complex than that? It probably is much more complex than that, but at the same time, I'd kind of like to see the YouTubers say, hey, just FYI, you really shouldn't buy this game. But honestly, even if they say that, it doesn't really do much, because if you watch a video where they're having fun and playing it and really laughing hard with their friends, you're probably still going to feel an urge to buy it. That's how I feel. I didn't get that feeling with Dead by Daylight because it looked so terrible, but you get that with some games, and you're always going to. It's human nature to see, hey, those guys are having fun doing that, I want to have that much fun. That's what got me into doing these videos in the first place. It's maybe a little bit of a peer pressure thing. So it's tough. I don't really know what the right call is there, but yeah. Am I in any way, legally? No, I'm not in any way responsible for anyone who buys this game and is disappointed. That's definitely not my responsibility. But from a right and wrong standpoint that doesn't have anything to do with law, I don't know. Obviously, you should do your own research to see if this is a game that you'd want to play. Watching my videos might be part of that. Or any game. By the way, I think I got sidetracked. I was going to say a couple examples of early access done right. Darkest Dungeon, Life is Feudal, Forest Village, which was the one I mentioned. FTL, I think, was early access at one point. Stardew Valley. You got a lot. There's a lot of good ones where it just, like... for me, what I need, it doesn't need to be content complete. Factorio is another, by the way. It doesn't need to be content complete. It needs to be functional. It needs to be bug-free the majority of the time. And that may sound counterintuitive because it's like, oh, you're paying for a beta. But no, I don't think beta and early access mean the same thing. Beta should be free. Early access should cost money. Early access should be for content incomplete but bug-free, except for when new content it should basically be, ideally in early access, you have the game, and let's say we're on Alpha 18 or whatever, of Stonehearth. Alpha 19 comes out, there's bugs for a week, they get reported and fixed, and then it's back to bug-free. until the next content patch. And then there's a content patch, and there's a testing period, and then they're fixed, and then you move on. You get what I mean? Like, it should have a flow to it. But a lot of early access games, and now I am going to say, hey, this is Stonehearth a little bit, the bugs persist, and they don't really get fixed, because they seem to be more systemic than just saying, hey, oh, I made a typo. So that's when I start to have a problem with early access, because really you're not paying for early access, you're paying for beta access, which is a very different thing in my opinion. And you're paying to be a tester, and I have a problem with that. And that's, I guess, maybe that's the line that I want to draw. So, is Stonehearth a major offender? No, it's not. Is it a offender? Yes, but to a minor extent. So, yeah, I don't know. And then, of course, the question was that I was talking about, like, hey, to what extent do YouTubers and streamers bear responsibility for people purchasing games like this that are paid for beta access? You could say that they are responsible for purchases, but they are not responsible for the people making those purchases. Like, a YouTuber or streamer might convince you to purchase something, not because they're trying to, but because you saw them having fun, and as a result you bought something. But I wouldn't say that they're responsible for you doing that, I guess, if that makes any sense at all. And it's a convoluted subject with a lot of issues, so I understand if this is not making sense. That's fine. But I think it's an important topic, and it's a very... Most of the gaming topics like this are really cut and dry. This one I think is much more complex, because we're delving into marketing, and basically it's third-party, completely independent marketing. That's what YouTubers are. And I don't know how you handle that from an ethical and legal standpoint. Obviously, you need to be there's certain things that are very clear about it. If you're doing sponsored content, you need to be very clear that you're doing it. We had the whole CSGO Lotto thing that happened. That's serious. That's a legal thing you have to do. That's not a best practices thing. That's, if you don't do this, you will maybe not see jail time, but you will be in court. There's no question. And the guys who did that, they're going to court as far as I'm aware. Ooh, I fucked this up. No. Shit. Remove that. Okay. Yeah, I messed that up because I was going to mine out the area under that, and that's not what I want to do. So yeah, that's not negotiable at all. If you're doing paid content, you need to disclose that it's sponsored, including if you own the site or whatever it is. There's no question about that. And it needs to be explicit. It can't just be, oh, hey, under my breath I'm gonna subtly mention that this is my stuff, and, if you don't notice, too bad for you. That's not acceptable. It has to be very clear up front in the open. And that's maybe a little bit closer to being best practices than the law, but that's how I feel about it. So, you get into other issues, though, where, what if it's not that simple? What if you're not... Let's put it this way. What if you're not... trying to think of a good way of explaining this. Because most of them, when you go down to the actual individual case, they're probably kind of cut and dry. If I say, hey, okay, I've got this game, and I want to sell it to you, and I'm saying, hey, here's the first act, and I've got 2 more acts that are going to come, and then a YouTuber plays it, and repeats that, and says, hey, this is early access, it's just the first act, there's going to be 2 more. And you buy it on the promise of those extra 2 acts, or whatever. YouTuber is probably not responsible in that case, and this is where I'm saying, like, it's a little bit hard for me to come up with a situation where it's more murky than this. Because on an individual basis, it's easier, but... if you're convinced... Yeah, I guess Dead by Daylight maybe is an example. If you see a lot of people having fun playing Dead by Daylight, it might be difficult psychologically to set, and this is a consumer protection thing, because, people can't be trusted to act like adults all the time, and not because they're stupid or childish, but because the human brain is complicated and we're susceptible to dumb things. It's the reason McDonald's uses red and yellow. It's because I think red makes you hungrier and yellow has something money related, maybe? I don't know. But I think red makes you hungrier, and that's why McDonald's uses red. I forget exactly what it was, but I think that was a psychological thing that they were talking about. Oh, nice. We're doing a good job of harvesting everything now. This is working a lot better now that I understand what the issue is. I'm actually very happy about this. So yeah, you know, there's a lot of things that we're susceptible to, and maybe this is one of them. And seeing someone play a game and clearly enjoy it very much with their friends or something, that's a glowing recommendation, even if you're deliberately saying while you do that, don't buy this game, it's not finished, it's bad. It doesn't matter, because your brain is going to associate, hey, they're having fun, they're playing this game, I want that game. And a lot of people are going to buy it because of that. And I think that's the only reason that Dead by Daylight ever sold anywhere near as many copies as it did. Because it's a horrible fucking game. The core mechanics might be good. Like if you wrote a design document for that game, probably pretty good. But the implementation was unbelievably bad, I felt. So, you know, in that situation, does some responsibility lie with the YouTubers and streamers? Even if they said, hey, this game is bad, don't buy it? I don't know. I think you can't hold them responsible legally, and I think you shouldn't be able to hold them responsible legally, but at the same time, is that the only thing that matters? Because they are convincing people to buy it, even if they don't intend to. So yeah, I'm not really sure what the right answer is to that. So anyway, sorry to get kind of, not really philosophical, but, what's the word? Not really intellectual either. Too much thinking. Too complicated in a video of this. I know probably a lot of you probably use this just to relax and background noise, I would imagine. That's how I use videos mostly. So I apologize if this was a little bit too intense and cerebral. That's the word I'm going for. Not to give myself any credit for being smart or anything, that's not what I mean. I just mean too much complexity, not just fucking around. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoy those topics quite a bit. I think it's very interesting, and it's a worthy subject to think about and discuss, because it does matter. If you're watching this video, it's relevant to you. Because you could be persuaded to buy Stonehearth as a result of this, and maybe you feel like you got cheated out of your money because of that, because you thought it would be something it isn't. I hope not. I hope I'm accurately representing the game, but you never know. And you might be right to feel a little bit slighted if you did that, and you did not get what you were hoping to get. I don't think I would hold any blame in that scenario, but yeah, you get the idea. It's a whole conversation we just had, sorry. Trouble speaking. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this topic, so if you did enjoy it, please tell me so that I can talk about it more without feeling bad. Not necessarily this exact topic, but this kind of thing. Anyway, like I said, thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time. And I totally fucked up my outro. And yeah, I'm just gonna go. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.